Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Online Marketing Simplified. My name is Brad Parnell. I am your host. I'm so excited to bring a special guest today. Before I tell you who this is, I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. So if you're watching on video, you can already see him right above me or right beside me. But this individual, you guys know how important copywriting is. I grew up being a designer and everything was about look and feel. And as I matured a little bit by doing marketing, I realized that although design is important, what is arguably even more important are the words that you use to sell your products or services. And Stefan here, I just said your name, so I'll go ahead and introduce you. This is Stefan, who is a 10-figure copywriter, 10 figures, that has written over 200 direct response sales letters that have grossed over 1 billion in sales. So you guys better listen up. Like, this is your chance to soak in some amazing knowledge from Stefan here. And he has founded or co-founded 9 different businesses that have scaled to at least 7 figures, and several of those reaching the 8 and 9 figure mark. So guys, I can't stress enough. Like, I'm honestly on the edge of my seat. I'm so excited to hear from Stefan and hear about what he's doing and how he's doing it. He's from Scottsdale, and the topic of today is he's gonna tell us how to sell $1 billion worth of products through the written word. So I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna sit back, introduce Stefan here. We just got a chance to know each other and talk a little bit. Stefan, thanks for being a part of our show today. Welcome.
Absolutely, Brad. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell someone, before we get started, tell someone something that is interesting about yourself other than copywriting. What else can you share about yourself that no one might know? Obviously, this is a brand new platform here, so tell us something interesting.
Well, what's interesting to me may not be interesting to other people. So I'll give you a couple of tidbits. One is I'm a philosophy major. So I was like a hipster existentialist, coffee drinking, cigarette smoking philosophy major in college, and thought I was going to be some kind of poet novelist until my mid-20s, and then became a billion-dollar copywriter. And frankly, actually, that was pretty good. I might just keep it at that one. There's one thing that not a ton of people know about me.
Did you have long hair, ponytail, walking around campus?
Okay, close enough. My hair, because I'm Italian, my hair gets long, it just kind of curls up and gets pretty like not good looking. So it wasn't too long, but I was wearing black t-shirts a lot, and pretty much everything else was a match.
Wow. So what was the transition like whenever you got into copywriting? I want to hear kind of what that looked like, and then when you started seeing results, the businesses that you were working with starting to get results from the written word.
Absolutely. So after college, which I had a kind of non-traditional route, and like dropped out of college after high school, then eventually went back and all of that, and bounced around. My dad actually called me an unguided missile because I had like force, but I didn't have direction. And that went on for quite a while. But in 2011, I was working at an outdoor school in Marble Falls, Texas, basically a like an outdoor ed type of place, and teaching kids about nature. I was in a double wide trailer making a couple $100 a week and really enjoying life though. And then my dad ended up getting sick with cancer, which was a huge, obviously horrible thing in my life. And so I left that, went home to San Diego at the time, where I lived and my family lived, to be there and help out. He passed away, and a few months after that, I went to Las Vegas to play poker and just let blow off steam. And while at the poker table, a girl came in to the poker room. She got seated at my poker table, and somebody asked her what she did for a living. She said, "I'm a writer." And I really wanted to talk to her because I thought she was cute or whatever. And so I said, "What kind of writer?" She said, "I'm a copywriter." And I was like, "Wow, copywriting, that is so neat." And then I pulled out my iPhone 1 and Googled what's a copywriter under the table, because I had no idea. And that was the beginning of it for me. Really. Then I ended up becoming friends with this girl. She was my wife for a period of time. We have a daughter together, so it's a whole crazy thing. But I went to Florida. I took my last corporate job I ever took, and I was out in the hot sun making $200 a day in my mid to late 20s, and thought that was pretty good. I guess mid 20s, and it was a good job. But I come home and she's in her underwear drinking a beer, and she made like $1,000 writing, and so I'm like, what the hell are you doing? I want to do that. So eventually I decided to try it out. I put an ad up on a forum called Warrior Forum, which was like an internet marketing place. And but my first copy I ever wrote was selling myself as a copywriter. I think I charged $149 for a sales letter, and I woke up the next morning and I had $298 in my PayPal account. And
Wow.
that moment of belief, right? That switch flips where you realize that you can actually when I was like, I can actually make money writing and not to have a job. And so I quit my corporate job within like 2 months of that, and have never had a job since. So yeah.
Unbelievable. So that was the moment when the idea became a reality for you, and then that just continued to soar and take off. How cool. So how did you go about now with this newfound belief? How did you go about looking for clients and eventually growing to becoming the 10-figure copywriter?
Yeah, it was a when you go into that road of freelancing and entrepreneurship in general, I think a lot of times we have that dream of like a laptop lifestyle, or I felt like I can be on a beach drinking a pina colada, writing copy. I'll be writing from a plane and traveling the world. And the reality is, you're like, oh crap, I'm broke, and I need to hustle to try and get clients. And you have to basically build a business from the ground up, even as a freelancer. So early on, there was a lot of hustle involved. I leveraged places like Upwork. At the time it was Elance. And to be honest, I would do anything. I get hired for market research, SEO stuff, like blogs and content marketing. I wrote a couple people's college papers for them, which I don't know if it is what it is. They paid well. So some kids who passed their theory of like art theory classes or whatever, it's because I wrote these like beautiful essays for them. So I just did whatever I could. But over time, really, honestly, I just from the beginning focused on being the best and like obsessing over that, and not worrying about the money, which is, it sounds obvious, but so many people take that leap, whether it's as a freelancer or as an entrepreneur, and they get so caught up with the amount of money that they can potentially make one day, that they don't focus on all the fundamentals that will make that happen. And I think one thing I did well is I really tried to just be like world class at what I was doing with writing copy. I tried to be world class at customer service. I looked at myself as a business and being in the customer service business. So for my clients, I was responsive, hit deadlines, communicated well with them. And then I would also ask for referrals. Hey, who else do you know who could benefit from my services? And I built up like a pretty strong referral based business pretty quickly. And then from there, it was also kind of luck as well, getting some of the right clients. I got hired by a guy off that same forum in 2013, and I want to say I was charging $497 per sales letter at that point. And he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna give you $1,000. Just make it really good." And it was, oh my god, right? That's crazy. So I did. I wrote a really good sales letter for him and his business partner at the time. They were in like the survival, like prepper niche. So guides on how to build your own home aquaponics systems and how to fortify your home during like if there was like the grid collapse. It was honestly very fun to write for, because it was sort of like intense but fun stuff, and it was cool information. They had like former Navy SEALs teaching this stuff, and anyway, I did a good job. They started mentoring me, and then the one guy went to another company and brought me with them, and I started writing sales letters for them, and they did over $100 million in, I guess, 2014 off the copy I wrote. And that's when I realized I was actually like really good at this stuff, or I'd become really good at it, and kind of kept going from there.
Over $100 million
Yeah.
with attribution from the sales copy. Wow. So when you first heard that number, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, it was mind blowing. So because I didn't know anything about scaling a business or sales funnels, really anything like that. I just kind of stumbled into this whole world, and I understood writing copy and writing sales letters and email copy and ads and things, but I didn't really get how everything else worked. So I knew they kept hiring me, and they were happy, and I was pleased to be getting that consistent sort of retainer work, so to speak. But then the guy, they're in Romania, they're based in Romania, and the guy came to visit me in San Diego, where I'd gone back to. I bounced around a lot in my life, but I remember I was in Cardiff, San Diego. We were down by Seaside Market, which is really close to the ocean, and we're walking around, and the guy's like, "I don't think you realize, how good your copy is doing for us." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's great." And he's like, "I mean, it's doing really good." And I'm like, "Cool, man, that's awesome." I'm like, "How good?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know if I should tell. And I'm like, hey, you can tell me. I'm not going to ask for more money or anything like that. Like, he's like, well, we've done over $100 million in like the last year, and we'll probably do another 150 million this year. And I was like, well, hey, I need more money, so I'm gonna, I'm gonna raise my rate.
I take back what I just said.
I take that back. And he laughed, and they treated me very fairly. But yeah, honestly, it was mind blowing, because I seriously had no idea. I didn't know this road at all. I just knew that, like I said, I was writing, and they were happy with what I was writing. So that was very eye opening to me.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, so listeners here, if you're entrepreneur, small business, I think a couple things here that Stefan is sharing. One is, if you're a solopreneur, it's not just about the craft and your art. You have to be great at customer service, hitting deadlines, communication. I mean, I've been there too. I've been in this business for over 12 years, and I remember being the one-man show, having to do all that stuff. And that's just, you just gotta get to work and pay your dues and learn everything, right? You've got to be great at doing that stuff. And so that is a huge learning thing. And then asking for referrals. I still work with businesses all the time that are pretty big, but it's the simple things that they miss. So don't be afraid when you do great work to ask for those referrals. And it could be as simple as, hey, who else do you know that has this problem? That's it. Because if you've done great work for them, they probably hang out with people that are similar to them, right? And then all you have to do is say, hey, who else is in your network, or do you know that's also struggling with this that you could maybe introduce me to? Doesn't have to be formal. You don't have to write a handwritten note. It should just be a conversation. Okay, so Stefan, let's jump to the meat here. So for people listening that are itching to know, maybe it's a framework, maybe it's just a couple ideas, but how in the world can you sell $1 billion or just any amount of products through the written word? What tips can you give some people here who are wondering how to unlock the secrets of copywriting?
Absolutely. So several. I think one of the easiest places to start is having an impactful opening or a lead. We've talked about it like as a lead in the role of direct response sales copy, but what we're talking about here is not a lead like somebody who's a prospect, but the opening of your ad. And if you look at any copy that you're writing, or even on like a sales call, prospecting, whatever it may be, everything's kind of like a funnel where the most eyeballs or the most attention is going to be at the very top, the very beginning, the very opening. So if you have an ad, the ad goes to a landing page. The top of the landing page is going to be, the copy there is more important than the copy at the bottom, because 100% of eyeballs make it to the top, maybe only 30% make it to the bottom. So people, when they have landing pages or copy, or even like a Facebook ad that's 200 words, they sometimes just do not put enough emphasis or value on those first couple of sentences and really pulling the prospective customer in, right? So really focusing and assessing over dialing in your messaging the very first couple of sentences. Now, what does it actually look like? How do we do that? There's really the two most powerful tools from my perspective are emotion and curiosity. So we're emotional creatures. There's a study done where essentially, if the part of the brain that's responsible for processing emotion is damaged, people can't make decisions. So we make decisions with our heart first and our brain second. Our heart, which is emotional, hey, we really want this. I resonate. I connect with this. I need this. And then we spend the rest of the time, the heart spends time trying to convince your brain to like that it makes sense logically. So that's where logic comes in. So really, emotion before logic is very important when it comes to messaging and copywriting in general. And then in addition to that, when we bring in curiosity is actually an emotional state, right? And so they've done essentially with emotion, like the dopamine starts flowing. There's a whole neuroscience to this. And with curiosity, it's the same thing. When your state of curiosity gets peaked, your brain's reward system starts to kind of flow because it's anticipating this reward of that question being paid off and you getting the reward of knowledge, right? So really, like if we have curiosity, like for example, teasing somebody like, hey, in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to share the 3 mistakes you should never make if you're applying for a home mortgage, plus like the 2 magic words that any loan agent hates to hear because it means they have to give you the best rate possible, right? Just saying something like that, literally made it off the top of my head. But like now you're curious, like, oh, what are the magic words? What are the 3 mistakes?
Yeah.
So taking curiosity early on, it could be teasing a personal story, right? Like, which it could be an emotional story. So in fact, in a minute, I'm going to share how being robbed at gunpoint in my early 20s led me to discover the 3 self-defense techniques that anyone can use to protect themselves from a dangerous situation, regardless of if you're 90 or 30, and if you are armed or unarmed. And now you're like, well, that sounds like emotional, but I'm curious. So number one here, and I can fire hose people, so I'll go slow on it, but really strong, impactful opening that is rich in emotion and or curiosity. And when you can tie in both, that's a very powerful place to start.
Yeah, I'm taking notes here. This is good stuff, guys. If you are picking up any of this, having emotion plus curiosity, and if you've listened to any of my other podcasts, I talk about funnels a lot because I'm a funnel nerd, but thinking about your copywriting as the funnel too. If you can get people with emotion and curiosity before going straight to logic, and using kind of some of those curiosity headlines and frameworks, which I love, by the way. You've taken all the stuff I've tried to write and made it sound 100 times better just off the top of your head, because it's what you do.
Yeah, that's right.
And it sounds so good. So that's great. Okay, cool. Keep going. Anything else?
Yeah, sure. So related to this is answering, I use the acronym WIFM, but it's like what's in it for me. And me is not you, but it's the prospect. So the prospect has got a lot going on, whether they responded to a message in LinkedIn, or they saw an ad on Facebook, or they got a cold email, or it's a phone sales call. That's the thing. I'll always relate this back to like in-person selling from stage, phone sales, because not only does it make it more relevant to your whole audience, but it's true. This is the thing I realized, like these principles, I've applied them to the written word a lot, but I run a multi-million-dollar mastermind. I've sold millions of dollars from stage. I go on sales calls. This stuff applies everywhere. And so it seems fundamental, and yet so many times people get caught up in sharing their story and what's going on with them, that they forget that the prospect, who has a million things going on, is filtering and screening everything and saying, what's in it for me? Why should I listen? Why should I care? It doesn't matter. So emotion is great, but if I pull you in and I start telling you an emotional story about the hardships, and I grew up poor, and all this, it could be the best story ever. But if I'm just sitting there talking about myself for 5 or 10 minutes, you as the prospect starts to get antsy. You're like, all right, man, well, that's wild, and sorry life was so hard, but like I got to pick up my kids in 20 minutes. I've got this problem that isn't solved, right? Like, so we need to relate it back to what's in for them. So when I go back to like the examples I used before of, and how you can use this no matter if you're here or here, right? Like the things that you can use. Sometimes it's as simple as checking in with your prospect. Maybe you're telling them a story about yourself, and then you just pause and say, maybe you can relate. Have you ever felt that way? Does that sound familiar? Like, can you think of a time in your life where you went through something similar? Just very simple little questions you throw in there that suddenly puts them back into like where they're seeing themselves in your story that you're telling. It's extremely powerful too, and that's how you keep them engaged. So that's another one. I'll go all day though. I want to give you chances to ask questions as I go through them. But
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I'd love to hear a few more, and I want to also keep people curious, right? So they can go deeper with you later. But I love that acronym. So WINIFM, is that how you say it?
WIFM, so WIIFM.
Ah, yep. What's in it for me? And I love the way that you spun that. I think, people do love hearing other stories, but I think that little hook of saying like, hey, maybe you can relate, or maybe you've been through something similar, almost still gives that permission to be like, hey, I'm still sharing with you an important story that I want you to hear, but also relating it back to how they can apply it to themselves. That's great. Okay, give us one more if you don't mind, Stefan. This is good stuff. You are delivering some gold here.
Well, thank you. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna give you 1.5 more, because you made me think of one that I don't normally bring up, but it's actually a good one, which is where, especially when you're working with like a brand ambassador or a spokesperson, or even if you're the spokesperson and you discovered the product or solution that you're selling, being honest about your skepticism when you first discovered it, or having your spokesperson, brand ambassador be honest, is actually really powerful. Because if they can be skeptical for the prospect, it lets the prospect set their skepticism to the side. Meaning if I'm talking, and I know what you're thinking, it might be too good to be true. Was it going to cost a ton of money? I was honestly pretty skeptical, but I kept looking. When you do that throughout your sort of your copy, or what are the comms look like, then the prospect can be like, all right, cool. They're being skeptical for me. I can go into like learning mode, connection mode, things like that. So that's a unique one. It's a little more advanced, but it's a good one. So I wanted to throw it out there. We'll call that a 0.5er. And then here's the last one is I really like looking at things in terms of unique mechanisms of problems and solutions. And so what I mean by that is by the time your prospective customer gets to you, it's very unlikely that they've never tried to solve their pain point or problem before, right? It's very unlikely for like diet that somebody's never tried a diet before by the time they're in their 40s and whatever it is. And they're like, well, I'm gonna give it a try. They probably tried a million times and they've failed. Same thing for fixing a golf swing, making money online, like flipping houses, whatever it is. They've usually tried stuff before, but they obviously haven't gotten the results that they wanted, which is why they're still a prospect to you. And so the unique mechanism of the problem kind of shows them the real reason behind why they haven't succeeded. And it's usually that they're missing this little 1%, right? So if we're going to use flipping houses as an example, maybe there's some little like clause in contracts that no one ever tells you about, but this one clause makes it so that, you don't have to put any money down and there's less liability. And basically like, you've never heard that part. So usually people go to flip a house and there's this hidden booby trap and it costs them all this extra money. And so this is the real reason why you haven't succeeded at flipping houses. I don't flip houses. It's fun for me to just make stuff up on the fly. So if you're a house flipper and you're like, that's not how it works, I don't know. But the point is there's that one little thing that's missing. And there's the unique mechanism of the solution is the logical connection where it's like, well, so if that's the problem that this thing is missing, then all you need to do is add in this one thing, right? And that's why we created this system or this product, and it has that missing piece. And so now you're buying that one missing piece. And it's also very attainable because again, you're like, hey, you had most of it. You were almost there. You're missing this one little piece of information. And now that you have that one piece, you can really solve your problem with our product. And of course, obviously, we want to make sure our product or service really does solve the problem for them. But it's very nice to frame it that way for people because it kind of shifts the paradigm for them.
Holy cow. I don't think I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. I'm going to be in copywriting mode because Stefan Georgi here has enlightened my brain. I hope if you guys are listening that you really do go back and take notes. These are the frameworks and techniques that he's not just talking about to talk about, but is actually he's been using to generate revenue for himself and for his clients. So do not miss out on this. I like to think of the smallest hinges that swing the biggest doors. Guys, this is a really key hinge here. And I can testify my copy is probably 1/110 of what Stefan's is, but I've sent that one email that's gotten sales. I've sent the one email that has landed a like big deal. And it was because of the mindset and the copy. So does it pay off? Is there good ROI to study this and get better at it? 100%. It is so incredibly important. So Stefan, thanks for sharing that. I'm super curious, and I didn't prime you on this question, but I just out of curiosity, knowing the value of your services. Now, if a company was to say, hey, write a sales letter for me, what's your going rate for you to write a sales letter for a business?
So typically it's hard to hire just me. I've got 2 proteges who I kind of work with in tandem, and they're really good. My proteges have sold 9 figures on their own, and they're sort of just proteges turned partners and friends and whatever. So, usually if it was a flat fee, it'd be like 50 to 60,000. We sometimes work in, rev share, royalty deals, whatever as well. And then we do have a cool alternative option where we will take a much lower fee and a higher upside, whether that's a rev share or sometimes it's equity for a startup. And we take other high-level copywriters from our mastermind and we sort of work with them. We do the big ideas, we map it out, we copy chief it. It's a blast. We've done it for several 8-figure companies now. And so that's also an option. I kind of like both, honestly, because some people are like, I'll just pay you the more upfront, and collecting cash is never a bad thing. But for the right clients, if they have an exciting business and they've got some cool infrastructure already, and they already know what they're sort of doing, doing some of those performance deals is actually a lot of fun as well, because it's a win-win situation with lots of upside for everybody.
Yeah, that is amazing. So I hope you guys can see the true value of when you have great copy, it can make the difference between like making money and not making money. And I've heard countless stories, I'm sure like you have, and you've probably been there too, where it's, the reason why people send out a sales letter is to help get them emotionally involved in pushing them to a next step. Like we talk about in funnels all the time, you're simply guiding someone this step by step, because that's what sales is. The definition of sales is it is a step-by-step process to get someone to commit to something. And if you don't have good copy, your beautiful graphics are not going to do that. Your beautiful graphics might be able to get them interested and create a little bit of curiosity. But ultimately, at the end of the day, let's be real here, like bottom line, you have to have great direct sales content and copy to get someone to take a next step or to move from point A to point B. So Stefan Georgi, thank you for sharing that information, man. That was pure gold.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So guys, if you're interested in this and you want to know more, so Stefan, if people are wanting just to like go deeper with you, and I'll put the show notes, tell people how they can connect or take a next step with you.
Absolutely. So one of the best ways is through my email list, where I'm sending out like nearly daily emails, and I'm teaching a lot. I have a very interesting whole thing called emotional response marketing, which is where essentially I might go a month without trying to sell anything to my email list. It's just value bomb. Like today I wrote a 1,000-word email about a song by the Dire Straits, Songs of Swing. Great song, by the way. And tied it to professionalism and being the GOAT. And what does that mean as an entrepreneur or a copywriter? And so I write these things almost every day. So if you want to get on there, I'll bribe you in a good way, which I created a page. If you go to SPG, my initials, .fun/research, then I'm going to give away the research module from my copywriting course, which is like a $1,000 course. In this module, it's basically 23 research questions that help you to understand your target customer, your prospect on a way deeper level. And it's really transformative as far as writing better copy or really just selling in general. So I basically took that module out of my $1,000 course. It's yours for free. You just opt in basically. And again, it's really like, you can always unsubscribe if I lead you wrong, but I promise you my email list is an experience. So yeah, go get that amazing kind of 23 research questions in that module, and then you'll be on my email list and you'll get to hear from me more often.
Awesome. That is great. I just signed up for it too. So I'm gonna cool. Consume it and watch it and go through it. So link in the show notes, guys. And this is just pure value. This is what we do here at Online Marketing Simplified too, is we bring on experts like Stefan here to share what has truly helped him. He is here just to share, to give you pure value, and is giving you extra value by offering him nearly $1,000 of course material for free. So, you either are listening to this and you're agreeing and you move on, or you're going to listen to this and you're going to actually take action. And only a small percentage of people take action. But if you want results, guess what? You got to take action to get results. It goes from thinking to feeling to taking action to getting results. So if you're ready to take part and to really enlighten your brain on how to write great sales copy with and get more kind of in the world of what Stefan's doing here, then I encourage you to do it. I'm going to be doing it. I'm excited to jump in.
Yeah, you should be. It's great. I mean, seriously, it's like it's a really good module. It will change the way you think about your prospect, because it goes back to emotion. It's like what are their hopes and dreams, their victories and failures, right? What solutions have they used previously, and what were their results like? What do they like? What do they not like? And then I show where to find those answers and how to really basically copy and paste the language of your prospect through like forums and Amazon and places like that. And then you can, when you use it in your copy or your messaging in general, you're essentially just repeating your prospect's own words back to them. And the amount of like authentic rapport and connection you build is mind blowing, because they're like, oh my God, it's like they really know me, right? And it's because like of course I do, because I'm telling you what you've said back to you. So really cool module, and people will love it.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, Stefan, thank you so much for being on the show today. Guys, I hope you got tremendous value from this. This is one of the episodes I would really recommend you listening to a couple times. Stop taking notes if you're working out or driving. Go and listen to this again. Sometimes, again, the smallest hinges can swing the biggest door. So if you are stuck as an entrepreneur and you can't figure out how to get to the next level, if you really just focus, take some notes and think through, some of the stuff that he's sharing here and how you could put your own language on that and taking some action, that's what gets you unstuck. No amount of just sitting there and thinking is going to get you to your B, but taking action is going to get you to your B. And just I've done the same. I'm sure Stefan's been there too. Guess what? Your first draft is going to probably be pretty crappy and it's not going to be great. But guess what? You keep doing it and optimizing it and working it and working it. And that's what gets tremendous success. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? So this is the work that it takes to achieve great things. So Stefan, thanks again. Everyone, make sure to go to that link in the show notes to get the free goodies from Stefan. And thanks again for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. Really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for listening.